New Year's this year, the best part was not sitting on a dock on a frozen lake with friends watching the clouds come cover the stars. The best part was watching the University of Wisconsin Badgers win 34-31 against Auburn in overtime on the first day of 2015. All right? College football people, Midwesterners, where are my people? College football is in my culture. And while I used to be uneasy with my family's fandom, I've learned to love the belonging that the Badgers offered to my father when he first immigrated to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, fresh from refugee camps. I've learned to worry, yes, at the trauma, the racism, the gladiator spectacle. But if I'm honest, there is something so compelling about football, about helmets smacking and shoulders crashing, and my own simple analysis is this: that I have never truly learned how to own my anger. And so the anger of the football field, that conflict, that violence, that aggression is catharsis for what I never knew how to express. Before I was a Unitarian Universalist minister, I hung out in prisons, facilitating workshops on nonviolence. My mentors were incarcerated men who'd done many things out of want or need or love or sickness, and some out of anger at people or powerlessness or the pain of the world. In those workshops, we draw a big iceberg with a tip just above the surface of the water. That tip was violence. Underneath the water were the feelings that led to violence. Anger, always a popular choice. At the bottom of the iceberg, we brainstormed the systems, ideas that created anger: racism, sexism, classism, heterosexism. Audre Lorde wrote this amazing speech, The Uses of Anger, about the middle of that iceberg, anger. She said, "To my sisters of color who, like me, still tremble their rage under harness, or who sometimes question the expression of our rage as useless and disruptive, I want to speak about anger, my anger, and what I've learned from my travels through its dominions." It has been a year of anger in response to the non-indictment of the police officers who have killed Mike Brown, Eric Garner, Tamir Rice, many names. Last week, I wept as I thought of the new names that I might add to this list: Cynthia Hurd, Tawanza Sanders, and I don't know what a day would look like when we don't add new names. At protests this year, I've been surrounded by anger and evidence of its usefulness, but even with thousands beside me up against a police line, I often couldn't feel my own anger. Shoulder to shoulder with youth in the center of their anger, shutting down streets, my anger, that anger, was stuck below the surface, somewhere between the systems that caused it and my ability to express it, my rage trembling under harness. I've said, "I'm so angry," and I said it just like that. It was true, and I couldn't even feel it, couldn't even show it, couldn't be like a young person, 15, who said she was so angry that she would stay in the streets until the police joined the protesters. Lord's words, "Every woman has a well-stocked arsenal of anger, potentially useful against those oppressions which brought that anger into being. Focused with precision, it can become a powerful source of energy, serving progress and change." A lot of very smart spiritual teachers say that we must in some way let go of our anger. But maybe that letting go is what we do after we know what it is, after we've learned to express it freely and without doing harm to ourselves and others, after we've used it with precision for good. There is no way to let go of what we don't know how to have. Audre Lorde's words again, "Anger has eaten clefts into my living only when it remained unspoken, useless to anyone." I had a temper in college. I would bang on cars when boys stuck their heads out the windows yelling catcalls. I was in my anger in those moments, and while I'm not proud of them, it could feel some kind of holy to be empowered by my anger instead of paralyzed by it, communicating my anger with those whose actions hurt me instead of turning it inward, cementing it into bitterness, distrust, despair. The thing that is true is that many of us are angry. I have heard you say this to me, that many of us are angry, that those of us who are stopped by cops and whose children and parents, our siblings, are dead, those of us who the system support, who get friendly warnings from cops, who don't know anyone in prison, whose gated communities, private schools, and cars with doors locked keep us separate from our fellow humans. We who they say they are trying to protect are angry also. Thich Nhat Hanh says, breathing in, I know that anger has manifested in me. Hello, my little anger. And breathing out, I will take good care of you. He says it is like cooking potatoes. Your anger is a kind of potato, and you cannot eat a raw potato. Just as I pray that we do not inherit anger that is bitter, vengeful, cruel, may we also not inherit avoidance. May we embrace, hello, my little anger. And anger is how people who a year ago had never been to a protest ever, or maybe in the past decade, who did not have words to talk about race or racism, or who had forgotten those words, now join the freedom fighters who've been doing this work for decades. We are facilitating dialogues, we are planning direct actions, we are building movements, we are demanding prison abolition. Anger drives us from our comfort and our despair into the land of the doing. We get to live, Dr. Martin Luther King's words, the supreme task is to organize and unite people so that their anger becomes a transforming force. May we not be spectators to our anger, not let it be the providence of the football field or the young people in the streets. May we hold our little potatoes, recognize our anger, share it well and without harm, and put it to use for justice.